The Dutch chocolate shop underwent many reinventions and reincarnations between 1914 and 1988. When it closed its doors as a cafeteria in 1988, it was Finney's Cafeteria, and it had been Finney's Cafeteria since the end of about 1945-46, the end of World War II. I will mention in passing, those who are fans of the Dutch chocolate shop, please, if you subscribe to Amazon Prime and you have your television configured properly, watch or go buy the copy, a DVD copy for $4, a copy of the Steve McQueen film The Hunter. There is a 7-minute sequence early in the film shot in Finney's Cafeteria, and as with all the locations in Steve McQueen's last film, the cinematographer really it's not a great film. I enjoyed it, but it's a lot of fun. The camera department really had a lot of fun filming at all these great LA locations, and Finney's is just one of 7 or 8 great downtown locations. Penny Saver shows up as the giant penny. Third and Broadway.
Penny Saver. Yeah, it's not the Penny Saver. Penny Saver is what you look in when you want to go to a yard sale. So Charlie, if you will, he's walked away from the chocolate shop. He's not been able to raise the funds that he wanted to turn it into a going retail food service concern. And, it's troubling because, his idea was a very difficult one to implement because of some issues of how many people can actually be in that space. It's hard to... back when it was Finney's, and actually seeing this film clip, the Steve McQueen clip, God, he looked awful. He was really sick. But Finney's looked great. You could actually understand how Finney's functioned, which I've always wondered. And, of course, the storefront adjacent was part of the restaurant, and that explains why, this relatively long and narrow space was actually able to function as a, successful cafeteria for so many years. Even with the storefront next door, I don't know if it would have been possible for Charles to do what he wanted to do, and it's a moot question now because he's walked away from his lease. So we're very, very concerned, obviously, about the future of the Dutch chocolate shop. We're very hopeful that whoever does come in and pick up the torch and move forward with bringing this incredible space into its next century will be very progressive and have a sensitivity to what is there and understand that this is a historic cultural monument that deserves a great deal of care and attention and should be open so that people can enjoy it. People respond with such delight to this space, and I'm hoping before too long we'll be able to announce what's happening there and to bring people in again so that they can enjoy it and maybe even put something nice in their tummies while they're there.
Okay, good. Kim, we got to move on.
I know.
Okay, so let's pop back into West Hollywood, a preservation policy challenged city at best. Detroit Street bungalows.
Just very quickly, it's a city-owned property with a lot of low-income tenants. It was renovated in the 1980s. It's gorgeous. And the people who live there are extremely concerned because all around them on every side there are giant holes in the ground or there are giant buildings going up. These Hollywood mixed users are just enormous, and they are really... they're out of scale for the community. They're attracting a younger, more moneyed class of people. And they don't want to lose this bungalow that they live in. They really treasure the space and the community that they've built and their organic garden and the squirrels and the birds that come and visit. And so as part of their campaign to try to preserve the space and to tell the city, hey, please... can you not develop on this piece of land? Can you just leave this cool vintage bungalow alone? They made this neat little slideshow on Facebook, and we'll link to it. And you're going to have to click 200 times to see the slideshow. So your thumb's going to get a little tired, but I think it's worth it. It's a really interesting way of putting a story together where they contrast images of life inside their bungalow and the history of Hollywood and the bungalow's proximity to some really important early Hollywood cinema studios, and they compare and contrast that with what's going on all around them in the redevelopment. And it's I was impressed with it. I liked it a lot, and I thought it was worth calling it out, and I look forward to seeing what this group does as they seek to keep their home from being demolished.
All right, good. And staying in West Hollywood, we're actually going into the heart of the triangle formed by Melrose, Beverly, and Robertson, which is even having driven those streets since even being interested in that area before I could drive, I still, as I say those streets, impossible to understand them as a right-angled triangle, which they are.
That's so funny because I have no problem with that. I guess that's the difference between an East Side girl and a West Side boy.
Yeah, that must be Kim. Yeah, that's Steph. Yeah. Your mother doesn't ask you what the West Side ever did to you.
I don't really talk to my mom, but whatever.
Okay, Kim. Okay, Kim. So, Mitchell Camera Factory, 1929, early motion picture warehouse, so industrial building built for the film industry. It's in the Triangle, which is a hotbed of development, and there's concern. They want to redevelop the plot, the property, and so this is everyone in West Hollywood in the preservation community. This is a closely watched train. So we're just calling this out now as people start to garner forces and pull permits and get ready to send copies of the draft EIR to 700 people for it to be parsed and torn apart and look for problems. So we're just calling that out, and we'll keep you posted. And so just barreling wrong because we've got to get on to the interviews. Kim, well, we're not barreling wrong because you've got your preservation roundup to talk about. But before we get to the roundup, I just want to call out our good friend Marco Ramirez about 3 months ago took over the shoeshine concession at Union Station.
You mean you revived the lost shoeshine concession?
Okay, well, I was going to get to that, Kim. So careful listeners to this podcast probably have heard Marco's name. Perhaps not his name, but just the shoeshine guy in the locker room of the men's locker room of the Los Angeles Athletic Club. But now that he's properly a public figure with a front page feature story in the Los Angeles Times, I feel I can call him by his name, my good friend Marco Ramirez. He was Ken Pratt and the Board of Supervisors and the MTA Board a while ago wanted to bring back the shoeshine concession. A ad hoc committee was put together to figure out what genius was going to pull this miracle off, and it was almost immediately decided that Marco Ramirez is the only man to do this, and he has, and it's absolutely fantastic, and we're just so happy that Mike, he's the greatest guy in the world. If you want to know, okay, so no, let me finish, okay, we have to move on. If you want to know, if you wake up and you say, God, I need to know what's happening with this problem downtown, go get your shoeshine. He's like the shoeshine guy in the detective novel. Like he knows everything. Everything goes through Union Station, and he hears about everything, and he can point you in the right direction.
Yes. So if you're working on a detective case and you hit a dead end, go get your shoe signs. What did I just say? That's what I said.
Okay. CNN did a really incredibly wonderful and in-depth feature on our good friend and mentor, Senior Lead Officer Dion Joseph. He is the Senior Lead Officer for Skid Row. This reporter from Atlanta came out and spent, I think, a week with him, and it shows. I don't remember reading an article this long about Skid Row outside of some pieces in public policy magazines, which have all been very good, but they're you expect public policy magazine articles to be really long. This is really good, really long, and he's a great guy, and I'm so glad he's getting this attention because I don't know what Skid Row would do without him. And so, Kim, okay, deep breath. Preservation Roundup 2014 Esoteric newsletter just went out the end of last week.
I can do this so quickly. I'm not going to talk for 40 minutes about this because I want you to read our year in review 25 for 2014. Every year we prepare a list of historic preservation gains, losses, and the bittersweet middling items that keep us up nights. And this year there were not a lot of gains. There were actually only 4. So the rest of the list is either a loss or a bittersweet. It's an interesting list, though, because on those gains is, and something I know we're going to talk about a lot during the year to come, a really interesting new city ordinance that requires notification whenever a building older than 45 years in age is requested to have a demolition permit pulled. And this is going to make things super interesting. Probably half the losses on the list, I didn't do a count, but would have gone down very differently if the community had been alerted that demolition was on the way. So I'm going to encourage you to check out our year in review. You'll see a lovely picture at the top of... Oh, no, you won't actually, because the website version is different than the newsletter version. If you're subscribed to our newsletter, you would have seen a beautiful picture of the Sassany Arcade, which we talked about at the beginning of this podcast. If you look at it on the website, you'll see a beautiful picture of Clifton's Cafeteria. And both very important structures, and both part of our year in review, where we consider what the heck is going on in the city and how much has been lost and saved, and what we can do to save the things that are teetering on the edge. Thank you.
Good. Okay. We have to get through some events, and then we can get to the interviews. So, most recent first, this coming Saturday, we've got this coming Sunday, the 18th. We've got a forensic science seminar with Ed Nordskog. Title is "Where There's Smoke." Ed Nordskog is a senior arson investigator for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And he's going to be talking about totally deranged arson cases he's investigated and solved and cleared up and brought clarity to and people to justice around. And he's one of my favorite people in the world. And there's going to be detonated, disarmed ordnance at Show and Tell for one of the lab sections. He's going to bring some of the stuff he uses to train people in his department. It's all dead. All the explosives have been removed, but for teaching purposes, and he's the best. So I think there's some space available. So we'll include the link, and you should get on that emotional bus. Get over to the Crime Lab at Cal State LA and attend that event. Kim, you've got a talk coming up Thursday, January 22 at the Pasadena Library about your book. And don't talk about my role in this because it's very trivial.
Well, you are going to join me. You're on the
Yeah, I am going to be there, Kim. Yes.
No, I'm going to be talking about 1920s LA and the work that I've done digging up the milieu in which the young Raymond Chandler was an oil company executive downtown. And I've used Chandler as sort of my Virgil to lead us into the investigation of a real 1929 cult, fraud, and murder investigation known as the Great 11 Cult. Really wonderful group that I wanted to do a true crime book about, and I just couldn't find quite enough information. So I found a lot, but I'm a real persnickety person. So I ended up writing my first novel, and it's called The Kept Girl. It's received a lot of wonderful notice, and a number of people, I'm sure, listening to this have heard all about it already. But if you're curious about it, join us at this beautiful National Register Pasadena Central Library, where we'll be talking about, with an illustrated lecture, Chandler's LA, this cult murder spree, and, of course, my recently announced discovery of a lost and now found comic libretto by the young Raymond Chandler in the style of Gilbert and Sullivan, co-written with the man whose wife he would steal. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Would love to see you there.
Good. Okay, and then, excuse me, last but not least, I think not everyone, but a number of people I think have been waiting for is the Lava Sunday Salon is back. We have secured a Library Bar, which is a Acme Bar Group's venue at 6th and Hope. It's called Library Bar because it's across the street from Central Library in the former location of Church of the Open Door. And
Well, and also because they bought some books by the yard, so there's bookshelves in Library Bar with some of the weirdest selections you've ever seen in your life. So come a little early and see if you can find a book you've never seen before. I guarantee you have.
Okay, so we're really happy